Hey guys, welcome back to LoopDev for another tutorial on HTML5 for beginners. If you're new and haven't watched the first parts of this series, I recommend you watch them first and then continue with part 6. So today we'll be talking about HTML's quotation elements. We'll look at block quote, cite, queue, and abbreviation elements, and we'll learn about what are these elements, why, how, and where we can use them to best optimize the contents on our web page. So first off, block quote and cite elements. Within HTML, we use block quote to define a section that's quoted from a different source. The content within the block quote is usually indented a little bit to the right side so that a user can differentiate between a normal text, let's say a paragraph, and the quoted text, which is from an external source. We use block quote for quotations or for texts that are more than one line. If it's one line or shorter, then we use queue element, which is used for short quotations within HTML. And finally, we use cite element to define the title of the work that we have got the actual code from. Some people use it to include the name of the author within cite element, but that is not recommended. The recommended way is to include only title of the work within cite element, and if you really want to talk about or just mention name of the author, you can do that, but that should be outside the cite element. To the right side, we can see the basic syntax of a block quote, which is obviously just defined by word block quote. Within that, we have got the actual code that we get from the source, and then we have got the cite element here where we include only title of the work. And again, if you want to include name of the author, you can do that outside the cite element. With that being said, let's look at how it's implemented within a web page. So here in this example, I've got this code from a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Here you can see that I've used block quote, and the reason for that is because this code or this whole paragraph is more than one line. So that is the reason that I've used block quote. Next, at the bottom, you can see that I've used cite element where I included only name of the book and there is no name of author. And that's because it is recommended way of using cite element within a web page. And the right side, we can see that content of block quote is indented a little bit to the right side. That's because to allow the user to actually differentiate between a normal text or normal paragraph, which is this one, and the text that we actually got from an external source. The content of a cite element is a little bit in an italic format so that to allow the user to differentiate between the actual code or text and the name of the work itself. With that being said, now let's look at queue element within HTML. So queue element is used for short quotations within a web page. So that's basically an inline quotations where we want to include something within a paragraph. That's where we use queue element. So the content of a queue element is enclosed within double quotations. And that double quotation is different from one language to another. For example, in English, we have got this rounded type of double quotations. In French, it's a little bit different. In Russian or Arabic, it's a little bit different. So to allow the browser to actually understand what type of double quotations to surround our code with, therefore we have to use the lang attribute. Lang attribute, which is language attribute, tells the browser whether the text that we have got within the queue element is in English, Arabic, French, or any other language. That allows the browser to surround our code or the text with the proper or with the correct form of double quotation. So beside that, we have got cite attribute. Cite attribute is actually used to provide a URL to the source of the code, given that the code that we have got is from an online source. So the URL that we put as value for the cite attribute is not visible to the user. It's just for the search engines to understand where the actual content is coming from. With that being said, let's look at how it's done within our web page. So here in this example, I've got this quote from Stephen King, and we can see that it's a pretty short quote. So that's why I've used queue element, because it's just one sentence. It's not a long quote where we can use block quote. Here I've mentioned that the language that I've used is in English, right? That's why we can see that if I just zoom in here, we can see that we have got this rounded double quotations. Now, in this next example, I've changed the language from English to French. And here in the browser, we can see that there's a big difference, right? So in French, they're using this type of double quotations to surround the text that is, coded from a different or an external source. And we have got the CITE attribute here because I've got this code from this website. So I just included that. We can see that it's not visible to us in the web page, but that's only for the browsers and for the search engines to understand that this code is not actually mine. It's from someone else. I've copied that. I've got that from this website. With that being said, let's finally move on to abbreviations element. So in HTML, we use abbreviation element to define abbreviations or acronyms. We use this to mark the abbreviation so that we can give useful information to the browser, translation systems, or search engines to understand what type of content we're using within our web page. Now, to make it easier for the users to understand the full form of the abbreviations or acronyms that we use within our web page, we use the global title attribute where we can include the full form of that acronym, and when the user mouse over the element, they will be able to see the full form of that acronym. To the right side, we can see the basic syntax of abbreviation, which is defined by ABBR, which is the short form of abbreviation, and that's followed with the title attribute where we can include the full form of that abbreviation that we have got in content. With that being said, let's look at how it's implemented within a web page. Here in this example, we can see that I've got HTML, so that is an acronym or an abbreviation. Now I cannot expect everyone to understand what HTML stands for. Now to make it easier for my users when they visit my web page to see the full form of, what is HTML, I just included this title attribute, and here in the value I've got the full form of HTML, which is hypertext markup language. And we can see that I've included the HTML within an ABBR or abbreviation element because obviously that is an abbreviation, so I just have to do that because that is recommended. So the moment that I save this, we can see that there are some visual differences in the browser as well. So here if I zoom in, we can see that HTML, which is an abbreviation element, here we can see that it has these dots underneath it, right? So that is to make it obvious for the user that this is an abbreviation. So when they mouse over the element, they can see the full form of that acronym, which in this case, it's hypertext markup language. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial, guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, like the video and consider subscribing to the channel to get more useful contents like this. And if you have got any questions, put it in the comment section down below and I will try and answer them all before the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.